It is interesting that the age joke in 21 Jump Street, all these years later, is still relevant in terms of casting.
The fact that you look like a 40-year-old man.
I find that funny. So Dear Evan Hansen is a movie, it's a film adaptation that's also a musical that's based off of the production, the play, the musical. Which is funny because I've seen a lot of conversations out there, people are like, oh, this is like my favorite musical. I can't wait to see the movie. I hope the movie's as good as the musical. The musical itself is quite loved, and after watching the movie, I mean, I can kind of see why, but it doesn't really sell you on it. The premise of the movie is there's this dude, Evan Hansen. He's a very socially awkward high school student, has a lot of anxiety. He has a run-in with this other student who ends up killing himself. And then people get the idea that Evan Hansen and this now deceased student, they were best friends. And so he kind of creates a lie that leads to another lie. It leads to another lie that gives people hope. He's doing the wrong things for the right reasons. The allegory of the story is that the truth will always come out and lies are not worth it. Also, that happiness is built on the brick and mortar of absolute bullshit. If you want happiness, just embed yourself in lies. Sure, until it falls apart. But this movie does have some interesting allegory and themes, more in concept than execution. Conceptually speaking, you look at the themes in this movie, you're like, yeah, there are a lot of themes that are gonna hit a lot of people very differently. You can throw a bunch of people into one auditorium, they'll all walk out with a different takeaway. I always find that interesting in a movie. I do appreciate that it shows that people deal with grief differently, and if you're dealing with grief, you will latch on to a lie, even when evidence is totally flying in the face of it. You're like, no, I need this. Human connection, how you can be connected to a story, even when the story's not true. Then there's the side of how the internet deals with this information. You know, it did have some interesting themes, but again, very much in concept. It stars Ben Platt as Evan Hansen, who I guess played this character in the play and the onstage production, and I can completely see why. The dude can belt out the notes. He's really good at singing, he has a great voice, and also he's really good in the role as the character. Credit where credit's due, a lot of the cast, they did a really good job in the movie. But you can't help when looking at the dude, you're like, you are clearly not a high school student. Here you go, here's some information. In 2012, in Pitch Perfect, I believe he played a college student. Now all these years later, 9 years later, he's playing a high school student. Which you can get away with on Broadway or a musical production, a play. You know, the audience is far enough away to where you can't really see that. But when you're dealing with a movie that has close-ups, it doesn't matter the makeup that they're trying to do. You can just tell. I just couldn't help in watching the movie. I'm looking at the dude and he looks like the quirky, cool uncle who's trying to dress much younger than he is, but he's now breached into high school, so it's weird. But all that aside, although the movie had some fun musical numbers, some fun edits in there, but my biggest thing about this movie is the pacing. I walked out of this movie, I literally said to myself, I got in my car and I was like, that was the longest fucking movie I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this or 10 Commandments, which is, I don't know. Logistically, numerically, it's 10 Commandments, but dude, you feel it. It just drags on enough to where when the end credits hit, I was like, I'm out. I got things to do. Life's too short to sit here for 1 minute longer. Pacing, man, there's a point where I was like, oh, the movie's gonna end. It's only been an hour. This is why I wear watches to movie theaters, so I can chronicle how boring it's getting and when. And that pacing to me was the detriment of the entire thing. I make jokes about the fact that the lead looks 30, but these are just jokes. You know, these are things that you notice, but if the movie really stuck the landing, you wouldn't give a shit. Which I suppose is a clever way of saying, yeah, watch the musical. Apparently it's better, says the masses. I've seen a lot of people hate the movie. It's not like I hate it, I'm just indifferent. I watched the movie, I was like, okay. It had some really shallow development among some of the friends in the movie. I was buying the relationship between the lead and this girl who's running this charity in the name of the student who died, much more than I was buying the relationship between him and his actual love interest in the movie. I get it, you can have friends that aren't love interests, but I was like, these two just seem to click more. It's just one of those movies that you walk out of and you're like, oh, I saw that. It happened. It's filler. It's a movie I'm not really gonna remember in T-minus 1 day. Yep, already forgot. If for nothing else, if the musical is that much better, hopefully it sparks interest for people to see that. All right, so Dear Evan Hansen, have you seen it? Have you? I don't know, maybe YouTube ads or where all the marketing is, but when I was at the theater and I was like, yeah, that high school musical movie that's not actually High School Musical, but is a musical that I haven't heard of before today. And she was like, oh yeah, Dear Evan Hansen, there you go, 1 ticket. She knew what I was talking about. I feel like that speaks volumes. I'm actually curious, or what's a movie that's also a play that you actually like? Either or. It's kind of a convoluted question, but it's the best I got today. But whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.